It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina.
I'm at Lingao. Some stores are watching this Wednesday, April 9. The Department of Foreign Affairs confirms the recovery of the remains of a Filipino worker in Mandalay, Myanmar. The DFA has informed the family but will not release other details. Authorities continue to hope for the rescue of 3 Filipinos still missing after the March 28 killer quake in Myanmar.
Former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque denied that he's the one behind the so-called Polvoron video. Vlogger Pebbles Cunanan told the TRICOM hearing yesterday that Roque encouraged the release of the clip allegedly showing President Marcos using illegal drugs. Cunanan also quoted Roque as saying that he's good at bringing down governments. But Roque questioned Cunanan's credibility and her shift from being a Marcos critic to supporter.
For today's commemoration of the 183rd Araw ng Kagitingan, President Bongbong Marcos says the Philippines remains a cradle of heroes. He encouraged Filipinos to advance causes that improve the lives of their countrymen. For her part, VP Sara Duterte called on Filipinos to honor World War II heroes. She knows that their heroism should inspire unity and progress amid today's challenges.
A new round of so-called reciprocal tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump took effect today. This targets imports from 86 countries, including the Philippines, with rates ranging from 11% to as much as 104%. China looks to bear the biggest burden, with a total of 104% in levies on exports to the United States. And Australia turned over 20 drones worth 34 million pesos to the Philippine Coast Guard to strengthen air patrols in the West Philippine Sea. The donation includes 15 short-range, 4 medium-range, and 1 long-range unmanned aerial system. The PCG says the new drones will expand surveillance capabilities while saving fuel and minimizing risks to crews.
And joining us today, Storycon's resident political papa, Tito Ronald Llamas, na bagamat holiday, narito pa rin.
May kape.
Ba't may kape ka? Wala
May kape kaya nandito ako.
Free coffee.
Bakit siya meron? Wala.
Maligayang araw ng kagitingan, Ami.
Ayun, araw kagitingan.
From the Philippine Star, Editor-in-Chief, Amy Pamintuan.
Hi, happy holiday, happy Wednesday.
Kami lang ang tao rito ngayon eh.
Oo nga eh.
Ganun ba?
Araw ng
Dito
kagitingan.
medyo marami.
Dyaryo eh. Have you nothing to say?
Subdued pa rin.
Ah.
Subdued pa rin ang suot ni Ami.
Oo.
Hindi siya mahilig sa humihiyaw.
Bakit subdued ang iyong fashion
Commentary, no?
Paano nagko-contradict sa personality ni Ami na hindi subdued?
Uy, that's a nice critique.
Editor yan eh. Pwede bang subdued ang editor?
Oo, si Ichu, hindi subdued eh.
Ayun.
Hi, Ichu.
kahit hindi editor yun, di subdued yun.
Teka. Dangerous gun yan. Tawain tayo ni Ichu. Okay, Ami, anong headlines mo today?
Binabantayan namin yung mga reaction dyan sa tariffs na Liberation Day tariff.
Yung hearing tomorrow.
104%. Siguradong magre-retaliate ang China niyan and we will be affected.
Siyempre.
Maganda yung message niya, yung Prime Minister ng Singapore, si Lawrence Wong. Viral yung statement niya. Maganda, that's the proper reaction to this.
Dahil maganda yung kanyang statement sa context na hindi naman mataas yung tariff sa kanila. Pero pinaliwanag niya na kahit mababa yan, hindi ibig sabihin niya hindi kayo maapektuhan.
Kapit-kapit.
Lahat tayo ay maapektuhan because of a globalized system. Because of a supply chain system. No? Lahat tayo makuha. Hindi katulad ng statement ng ating gobyerno na okay lang. Chill lang tayo, chill lang. No?
Hindi nga chill lang, silver lining.
Hindi naman tayo.
Upended na nga daw, di ba? Upended yung World Trade Organization.
Correct.
Yung World
So-
Trade System
Pero okay lang
is
tayo.
upended already.
Yeah. So yun yung
Ayaw.
bigger point here. It's not that, okay lang kasi hindi naman export-oriented economy yung Philippines. It's not, that's not the point. The point is that yung tariffs ni Trump have rejected 80 years of WTO frameworks,
Yes.
right? So now we're living in a new world order. And to be honest, as I was telling these guys, I'm still waiting to hear from the president on this. Kung saan, which direction the Philippines wants to go, right? Like as we speak, nagpadala na ng delegations yung South Korea and Japan to Washington DC to negotiate. Vietnam is also negotiating.
Vietnam, ang bilis-bilis.
Oh, within a few hours,
Very
their prime
quick.
minister spoke to President Trump. They had a
Yes.
quote-unquote very productive discussion.
But we're still appreciating the silver lining.
Busy tayo sa TRICOM, ano ka ba? Busy tayo eh. Ang dami natin pinoproblemang mga fake news, tsaka mga kwan.
So yun yung priorities ba ganun?
Oo naman,
Hindi mo napansin, yung
mas masakit yung yung mas masakit yung fake news eh.
Ang masakit to sa akin as the business editor because I worry about a looming global recession. But
At usually, yung mga bababa, mas yung tatamaan yon.
correct.
Dahil yung
correct.
kanilang wherewithal para
Wala kang
mitigate,
resources eh.
Plus lang buffer.
mitigate yung
Nawala ako.
crisis.
Oo. Oo.
Yeah, I mean, we lost you. But I think what few people expected was yung back and
Retaliation.
forth ng dalawa eh. China pinatuan ng 34%, China retaliates with 34%.
So now 104% na sila.
Oo, nagpatong ng additional 50% tariff si Trump.
At saka hindi lang naman China. Paano? Dito kasi parang blanket reciprocal tariffs eh. Kalaban at kakampi ay tinamaan. At yung namimiss natin yung forest for the trees. Nakikita natin yung mga specific tariffs. Hindi na natin nakikita yung buong global system na nagbago. Na lahat tayo ay maapektuhan. No? Halimbawa tayo, ang ating foundation ng ating economy are remittances from our OFW. Eh pag nagkaroon ng crisis yung mga bansa na pinagtatrabahuhan ng ating OFW, kahit pa paano tatamaan sila. Which will affect our
They're the first
main
to go.
source of dollars, yung remittances nila. That's just one example. No? So, hindi ito usapin ng gaano kaliit o gaano kalaki yung tariff natin.
Correct.
Paano tayo tatamaan ng buong mundo?
Correct.
No? Yun yung namimiss ng mga ibang mga ekonomista natin dito.
Really stop trying to rile
In
up.
fact, yun ang message nung Singapore PM, di ba? Kahit ang liit-liit ng ekonomiya natin, malakas ang impact niyan sa atin.
Yes.
And you have to brace, sabi niya, sa mga kababayan niya.
And
Yun ang tamang messaging doon.
Yun ang
Correct.
inihintay ni Reg. Yung statement na yun.
Baka hindi na gobyerno natin magsalita. Yun na lang mga business groups natin na nagsasalita.
And the messaging from Singapore was that the last time we had a full-scale global trade war in the 1930s.
Sumunod yung World War II.
Correct. Exactly. So this has destabilizing consequences. Of course, ngayon, as we speak, the trade alliances are being redrawn. The trade lines are being redrawn, right? So how will that impact the Philippines?
Yes.
How are we preparing for this brave new world is the question, is the big question right now.
Para maalala lang ng mga tao dahil kainuman ng lolo ko yung mga nandun eh. Noong 1929. No? Nagkaroon ng global slowdown eh. Tapos, nung nagkaroon ng global slowdown, ang ginawa ng Amerika, nag-impose ng tariff. Na lalong nagpabilis ng slowdown. From recession, naging depression. At dahil nagkaroon ng depression,
The Great
sumulpot
Depression.
yung tatlong alternatives. Yung sa Germany, yung fascism. Na yung kanilang political economy nakataya sa pagtatayo ng massive infrastructure. No? Yung sa US naman, state intervention. At yung sa Scandinavian countries, social welfare. Sinubukan nilang makatakas dun sa recession na naging depression sa pamamagitan ng pag-prime ng social protection, social welfare.
So,
Ang
three
sa US ay state intervention. Sa Germany ay state intervention pero yung centralized government through a fascist system. So at dahil dyan, yan yung naging condition for World War II.
Correct.
Hindi natin sinasabi na makakagera ngayon, pero yung kasaysayan ay nakaka-trigger yung ganyang klaseng economic na hindi lang slowdown, economic disruption
Correct.
ng mga delikadong mga tendencies like war. Yun yung
And to be clear, it's not that we're defending globalization. What we're saying here is, okay, if this is the end of globalization as we know it, anong new order is
Alternative.
gonna take over
Wala
here? If this is the death of neoliberal economic principles,
kaliwa.
ano na?
Si Reg, no?
Kaliwa.
Parang kaliwa mo pa eh. Hindi na nga akong sasalita. May
And
spokesperson.
you need rules, di ba? Mahirap
bawal
yan.
nila.
Mahirap yan. It's trade. You need a rules-based international order in all aspects, including trade. Yan yung na-upset ngayon.
Yes.
Oh,
Ano
dahil-
ngayon, ang kanya-kanya na ngayon ng mga bansa. Paano yan? Gagawin din yan ng China.
I think what
Dahil
works
wala
a lot of
nang
people is
respeto,
ano eh.
wala
Doon
nang
sa
respeto sa
WTO,
kanya ngayon eh.
ano?
Wala nang wala nang respeto sa treaties
sa
eh.
WTO, tingnan natin kung ano magiging impact ng protesta ng China sa WTO. Kasi I'm sure yung European Union, yun din ang gagawin. Magcha-challenge sila, so we'll see.
Pero ang nakakatawa, ang sabi ng ating gobyerno, at least yung part ng ating gobyerno, ang sinasabi ay mag-negotiate tayo kay Trump ng bagong free trade agreement, no? Eh yun nga yung in-overturn ni Trump eh. Wala nang free trade agreement dahil yung mga treaties baliwala na. Paano to eh, trade war. So paano tayo mag-negotiate ng bagong trade agreement?
I think the idea there is if we bring down our tariffs to zero, baka they might agree to keep theirs at zero then. But
That's not how it works.
that's not how it works. Saka pangalawa, like we said yesterday, mukhang ang baseline assumption ng Trump administration is there has to be some tariff. So yung baseline is 10% at the moment. That's the lowest figure, that's the lowest rate that all the countries, the countries like Singapore got,
The
right?
problem ay yung mathematical formula.
Oh, yun na nga. Oh.
Because it's not about tariff eh. It's about surplus. Halimbawa, ang pinanggalingan nila, ano ba yung surplus ng bansa na katrade ng US? Tapos multiplied by the total... divided by
Ayun
the
yun.
total imports
So,
ng bansa na yan.
and then you have a number.
At doon kukunin yung numero na magiging basis ng reciprocal tariff.
So it makes you worry kasi it doesn't seem to be very well thought out and people just swing the club back and forth.
Oo, yun na nga.
Nagbabawi
Talaga?
Parang you're saying it. But that's how it sounds.
Mali nga yung mathematics eh.
Mali nga yung math, pero
Mali nga yung math eh.
parang
Pero mo yun ang sinasabi ni
Hataw na
Krugman.
hataw.
Yun ang sinasabi ni Krugman, Nobel Peace Prize awardee sa economics. Yun ang sinasabi niya. Yun ang sinasabi ni Varoufakis, yung dating finance minister ng Greece. Yun ang sinasabi ni Piketty, isang well-known economist sa France, etc. etc. Sabi nila, saan nang galing yung mathematics na to?
wala. We already know at this point the math was a bit was questionable. Pero yung the fact na after China retaliated, after China said we're prepared to fight any war and we're gonna fight this to the end, nag-posted Trump to say, okay, additional 50% tariff.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Wala pong kumakausap, wala pong nag-advise sa kanya.
Ang nakakatawa,
It's like-
ang sabi ng China, sila ngayon ang magiging champion ng globalization. So, Communist China will be the champion of globalization.
Yun ang problema. Okay.
It's not really a communist economy to begin with anyway.
Okay.
Well, they still call
Si
themselves
Communist
a
China,
communist.
yun ang description ng Trump administration. Si Communist China. Diba? Ayan, sila ngayon ang mangunguna. Although napaka-dependent kasi ng Chinese sa nawala ulit. Napaka-dependent sa exports eh.
One of the
Hindi
worries
naman ako, no?
one of the worries I think is that on the ground yung mas
Wala ako ulit.
practical reality is that okay, so the US is the largest export market of China. Let's say they stop exporting goods to them. So yung excess, yung supplies niya has to go somewhere,
Yeah.
right?
Very
so baka
fundam-
maging dumping ground din yung countries like the Philippines which have a large consumption base.
Very fundamental yung global problem dahil itong mga bansang ito, hindi nila pwedeng itigil ang production. Pag tinigil nila, magkakaroon ng unemployment, magkakaroon ng
Unrest.
ng depression sa mga bansa nila, magkakaroon ng revolusyon. So, yung their very survival ay nakatali dun sa
Correct.
to continue
So
to
they will
produce.
continue
Ang problema,
producing.
yung babagsakan ng kanilang products
Yun na nga.
ay nagsasara. So kaya in the past, nagiging condition yan for war. No? Dahil hindi nila pwedeng itigil yung production. Whether US, Europe, Latin America, etc.
Kaya nga.
It creates the condition for global disruption. In the past, yan ay nagiging world war. Hindi ko sinasabi na yun ang mangyayari na.
Again, yes.
Pero magkakaroon ka ng ganong klaseng disruption. Because they cannot stop production.
And those
Dalawang beses na inulit
goods, those goods still have to go somewhere, right? So, yun. My worry is that, okay, the Philippines has got a huge consumption-driven economy. Maaring tayo mag-absorb some of that, right? But hindi pantay yung exports.
Parang may guest tayo magpapaliwanag na mamaya.
Ayun. O naman, we have a guest in second half.
Pero ngayon, si Commodore Tarriela, di ba?
Wala pa ata eh.
Wala pa.
Calling pa lang. Tapos, Ami, anong bago kay Harry Roque? Have you heard from Harry?
Wala daw siya kinalaman eh.
Nagdi-deny siya eh. Nagdi-deny siya na siya yung source ng Nagdi-deny siya na siya yung source ng Polvoron video. Di ba?
Balik siya rito. Doon niya i-deny sa
Saka
TRICOM.
nagsalita din yung si Sasot Sabi niya, wala akong balak bumalik dyan at humarap dyan sa House Committee.
Actually,
Sa China siya, di ba? Sa China. Sa China si Sasot, di ba?
Ay, hindi ko sure.
Kaya hindi daw siya babalik and she will not face the House Committee.
At saka may cyber libel case siya kay Cielo Magno eh.
Pero wala pa naman, no? I don't think may
Wala pang
problem.
waran.
Actually, right after the TRICOM hearing kahapon, nag-livestream kaagad si Sasot saying, I am honored to be cited in contempt by the House Tri-Committee. And then sabi niya, catch me if you can, sabi niya, she's protected by international law. Hindi ko alam ano ibig sabihin nun, but which law specifically she's talking about, but she said, I'm protected by international law, so they can't do anything to me, is what she said. Okay.
Kaya sa contempt naman ng House, wala naman yung
Oo, hindi naman
hindi
naabot.
sila pwedeng habulin. Pero pag may criminal complaint dito, pwede mag-request tayo through Interpol again.
Pag umandaling libel case si Cielo Magno.
Correct. But pivot muna tayo. Right now, let's bring in our first guest. We have Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Commodore J. Tarriela on the line. Commodore, welcome back to Storycon. Thanks for making time for us on this holiday.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Commodore.
Maligayang araw ng kagitingan, Commodore.
Maligayang araw yan, sir.
Sir, yung huling balita
Commodore,
dun sa...
may bago kayong barko. May bago kayong barko, Commodore. Kailan ba yun, Kailan yan gagamitin ba siya sa West Philippine Sea? Yung galing sa South Korea?
Aling...
Hindi ba sa inyo yun? Navy ba yun?
Ma'am, of course. Hindi sa amin yun, ma'am. Navy yun, ma'am. Navy.
Okay.
Sa Navy pala siya. Okay.
Okay, but let's talk about yung latest incident, Commodore, no? BRP Cabra was heading to the southwest part of Bajo de Masinloc nung Sunday, or Bajo de Masinloc or Scarborough. Tapos, nagka-near collision with China Coast Guard Vessel 3302. What happened there?
Nangyari dito, last...
Sir, mukhang choppy tayo, sir.
At a distance of 84 nautical miles Zambales. No? And then, what the commandant did, he immediately deployed the BRP cap to the Chinese Coast Guard vessel. And by April 6, we stages maneuver coming from hinarap niya ang BRP Cabra and appearing to be babanggain tayo, no? And then last April 7, the China Coast Guard 3302 attempted multiple times to ram the aft of the Philippine Coast Guard vessel.
Sir, what can we do about these incidents? Sir, medyo choppy tayo, sir. Sir, medyo choppy tayo, sir. Maybe you should try calling again, no? Si Commodore, kasi napuputol-putol eh. Sir, do you mind? We'll call you again kasi napuputol linya nyo. We can barely understand, sir, what you're saying. So, if you don't mind, we'll call you again right now.
Sige po, sir. Sige
Thank you,
po.
sir. If you've seen the video kasi talagang looming large yung yung bow ng China Coast Guard eh. Talagang
Talaga naman mas
Halos
malaki yung
doble
kanila.
yata ng laki nung di ba? Coast Guard
pwede nga eh.
natin.
Well,
And this Coast Guard the CCG vessel was already shadowing Cabra to begin with. Tapos biglang nagkaroon ng near collision incident dun nga. It was trying to ram daw, according to the Philippine Coast Guard, trying to ram the aft of BRP Cabra.
Sobrang lapit na yan, Sambales. Ang lapit-lapit na yan sa atin.
Sa 90 plus nautical miles, mga 170
Yes,
kilometers.
that's too close already. Meron naman silang radar, alam naman nila kung nasan sila sa dagat.
Ah, yeah,
Alam
yeah.
nilang napakalapit na nila sa atin.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's intentional naman.
Baka iniisip ng Chinese Coast Guard may mga spies dun sa ating Coast Guard vessel.
Yeah. Parami ng parami. Yung isa, yung research vessel, di ba? Although sinabi ng mga authorities natin, they were, mukha naman daw talagang research lang yung isa. Pero ito, collision.
Si Commodore's back. Si Commodore Tarriela is back on the line, sir. Kamusta po ang audio natin?
Hello, sir. Magandang hapon po ulit.
Yes, sir. Mukhang maganda naman ang audio natin. Subukan natin ulit, sir.
Commodore, kahapon ba nandun kayo dun sa parangal na binigay ng atin ito coalition dun sa ating Navy, Coast Guard at saka BFAR?
Actually, sir, nasa Congress ako kaya I was not able to attend yung event ng atin ito, sir.
Okay.
Sir, dun sa nangyari sa Scarborough, I'm wondering lang, parang it's a new spate. It's another spate of friction between the two, the China Coast Guard and the Philippine Coast Guard. After, medyo nagtagal kasi in between I'm wondering lang kung ano naging, do you see any reason for them to start doing this again?
Anong trigger?
Oo, kasi di ba, before this, medyo naglaylo ng konti yung kanilang, activities, at least yung pushing nila dun sa ating mga tropa. Commodore, can you hear us?
Because
Ay, naku, naputol ulit.
Nawawala siya. Nawawala siya ulit.
Yes, sir. Sir, we're afraid we're losing you again. Naputol. Are we calling the commander on a cell phone or via mobile talaga? Okay. We'll try to get him again kasi it's cellphone na. Wala tayong magagawa kung ano Yung ganun talaga
Cellphone.
Yun lang kasi, di ba? Before this, nag-die down ng konti.
Kaya nga itatanong ko sana ay
Just for a short period.
Yung agreement natin sa Ayungin, parang may agreement doon in terms of hindi na nila haharangan yung ating mga supply vessels. Hindi ba pwedeng gawin yan dito sa Bajo de Masinloc, sa Scarborough area? Can we have the same de-escalation?
But kasi they have the upper hand in Scarborough.
I was gonna say it's controlled by China. So what kind of reciprocal provisional agreement pala? You're talking about the provisional agreement sa Ayungin, no?
Oo. Paano practically naman yung surrounding area, sila naman yung dominant sa Ayungin. Ang palang natin naman doon, yung foothold, yung doon sa shoal ng BRP Sierra Madre. Pero yung paligid, puro pa yun. Militia, Coast Guard, at saka pa. So, very fluid yung pag sinabi mo who controls it. Ang habol lang ay pwede bang magkaroon ng provisional agreement para i-de-escalate. No? Dahil posibleng dito na de-escalate, dito hindi.
Nandiyan yung flare out.
Maapektuhan din yun.
Huminto si Commander, huminto saglit para malinaw yung audio natin.
Hi, Commodore.
Sir, can you hear us?
Pasensya na po.
Yes, sir. Sir, but thank you for
Ayan na,
staying
okay
with us. Sir, yung tanong kasi kanina, parang nag-die down ng konti itong friction ng dalawang panig, yung atin tsaka yung China for a while. Tapos biglang nag-flare up ulit. Do you see any reason kung bakit nag-flare up ulit ito ngayon at this particular time? Meron bang trigger dito?
Well, I don't think na yung sinasabi nating bumaba ang tensyon dahil sa provisional understanding sa Ayungin is entirely disconnected with what is happening in BDM. I would argue na yung approach nila in BDM, in Sandy Cay, and also in Escoda Shoal are different strategic options na meron sila. And I think that would apply to the entirety of the West Philippine Sea.
Nawala ulit.
Mahina talaga yung signal.
Baka nasa siya, Palawan.
Baka sa barko. Well, I'm
Wala
afraid we
sa
lost him
barko.
again.
Iniikutan. But it only started this January 4. Ngayon,
Commodore, nag-chat-chatty po yung nyo, parang dagat natin.
Hindi lang Shopee, nawawala
Yung
talaga.
communication niya.
Parang dagat natin. Buti nga sabihin, parang internet natin.
Okay.
Nawawala po yung ano niya,
Napuno na nga.
yung
Okay,
Oh, we
audio
lost
niya.
the
we'll try him another day. Baka nga nasa barko, no?
Well, anyway, sir, maraming salamat for joining us or trying to join us this afternoon. To sa Commodore J. Tarriela, ang spokesman ng Coast
Oo.
Guard.
And then, but that was a good question kung bakit there was another recent spate of incidents.
Ano naging
Ito
trigger?
sa
Ito sa latest na
and
escalation.
whether that's a signal from China
Baka naman
about something.
sa tariff din to.
Dahil sa
Nagalit sila.
tariff na,
So,
naiinis sila.
nainis sila.
Pag
So,
mainit ulo nila siguro.
Baka...
Mas mababa tariff ng Pilipinas.
Hindi posible din yan.
Why does the Philippines have a silver lining?
Tingin ko nagalit sila. Bakit nagpapadala ng mga spies ang Pilipinas sa China?
so lahat na connect na lahat.
Bakit nagpapadala ng spies? No?
So nainis sila kasi mas mababa yung tariff natin.
Oo, kasi-
Tapos may spice pa doon.
Kasi may silver lining
So,
nga tayo.
bungguin na lang natin yung
Oo.
BRP cover.
Baka kasi naghahanda na i-invade tayo eh.
Okay. Oo nga, no? When you think of it like that, makes sense.
Parang invasion ito eh.
Ami, kamusta yung makakausap mo sa Paranaque? Okay ba yung makausap mo sa Paranaque?
Mahirap talaga pag bakasyon eh. Paano masabi?
Mahirap pagbakasyon tapos nasa trabaho ka.
Lalo na Ami, kung tayo-tayo lang nag-uusap, parang Senate hearing lang. Parang Senate hearing, di ba? Tayo-tayo lang nag-uusap.
Maraming
You mean-
dumating doon sa Senate hearing.
You mean,
Oo.
uy, meron na pupunta. Bukas.
Yung tatanong ko kay Ami, sino ba mga confirmed ba Ami tomorrow? Senate hearing. Andun ba si Juan? Andun ba si Vice President? No,
Several ano. Hindi, wala.
ano, dumating na daw, di ba?
Mm.
Tapos siyempre si Robin Hood Padilla nandun.
Hindi pa namin nakukuha yung ano,
Listahan.
yung listahan ng ano. Tatanong ko mamaya kay ano. Baka makontak namin si Senator Amy dahil sa kanya magko-confirm yun eh. O hindi natin alam.
Pero parang may listahan na yung Malacanang, di ba? Kung sino dadalo. Mukhang dadalo
Yung papadala nila, oo. Yung ipapadala nila. Although yun na nga, sinabi nga nila, kahit magpadala kami dyan, kapag ang question involves executive privilege, we will invoke it.
Yes.
Kaya ewan ko kung ano pa makukuha nila dyan.
Maganda yun ha, yung may mag-invoke ng executive privilege, tapos i-contempt, tapos i-kwan,
Kaya nga, anong gagawin mo?
papakulong.
Doon cabinet
tapos
yun.
ipapakulong sa Senate, di ba? Cabinet Secretary. Imagine mo yung crisis na yun. Di ba? Oo.
Kaya, hindi, palagay ko, mag-intervene dyan si Senate President. Siya yung ano, di ba? Siya yung referee eh.
Oo.
Di ba? He might step in para ano.
Ang tingin ko nga,
Para
Ami,
walang
parang,
gulo.
parang compromise yan eh. O sige, dadalo yung executive, pero ngayon lang ha, tama na ha. Tapos yung mga question nyo, dapat ganito lang ha. O, parang may ganong compromise eh.
Mukha, because ang nag-broker nun si Senate Pres Cheese,
Yes.
right? So I'm sure may parameters yun na nilagay.
O, dadalo sila, pero dapat ganito lang ang mga
Oo.
klase ng tanong.
Oo, para kahit
Tapos,
paano.
tapusin na natin dahil tumatagal ito eh.
Oo.
Diba?
So I'm sure
Yan
there
na nga ang
was...
gusto, di ba? Patagalin.
Yun ang gusto ng mga nandun sa Senate Committee.
the,
Gusto naman ng
Hintayin natin yung
Malacanang,
susunod na
Ano?
survey.
ang gusto naman ng Malacanang, baguhin na yung narrative. Eh, yung pinag-uusapan natin, buti na academic na eh. Dahil nandun na sa ICC eh. Ba't pinagtatalunan pa
Kaya
natin
nga.
yung mga bagay na
Oo
yan?
nga eh.
Di ba? So,
but the partner of Duterte said that was a wrong move. This is Hanilet Avancenia. Nakita niyo yung clip niya? Sabi niya, yung mga gumawa sa kanya nito, pwede ko ba sabihin yung impyerno kayo?
Bakit naman?
Akala nila that will
He said
put him,
worse, you know.
akala nila that will put him down.
Hindi naman kami binabanatan mo.
Ano, I'm just quoting Hanilet.
Oo.
Pinabasa ko lang.
Defensive
Sinabi
siya.
mo, hindi naman kami yung dalawa ni Edjo.
Nagkakamali sila, wrong move. I don't know what she's trying to convey with that.
Parang yung nagkakamali, wrong move yun.
Oh, kaya nga.
So-
English Tagalog. But baka they're planning something, I don't know.
Ewan ko sa
Pero kompleto na yung legal team ni
Naluloka ako.
Ang pinaka ano talaga niya, ang magandang judgment dyan is the election eh.
We'll
Yan lang.
find out. Okay,
Pati yung hearing na yan eh, hindi ba? Sabi nga ni Sal Panelo, in aid of election lang yan.
Oo,
Hintayin
epal
natin
daw,
yung
epal.
resulta ng next pre-election survey. Kung anong kalabasan.
Oo, Epal.
Oh.
Okay, we will go on a very quick break on that note. You're watching Storycon on One News. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Pero ano sila?
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
We've got developing news in the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm at Lingao.
And I'm Regina. Still with us, Amy Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit.
And we bring in our second guest for today, the Focus on Global South co-founder, former Congressman Walden Bello. Sir, magandang hapon and welcome to Storycon.
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
I'm
sir.
glad to join you.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Si
Good afternoon,
Professor
Prof.
Bello has authored several books on the issue of globalization, among others. Sir,
Elementary pa lang ako, meron na siyang development debacle eh. Mga kuwan ko noon, 4 years old.
anyway, sir, a lot of things have been happening since the weekend, and we thought we were hoping that was the worst of it already, pero mukhang nag-spiral pa, nag-spiral out of control this trade war, especially with China. Can you give us your lowdown? How do you think this is going to end up, especially for our side of the equation?
Well, I think we're seen by the Trump administration as being part of East Asia that has all these countries that have a very great trade surplus with the United States. So parang we're seen in the same context as China. But of course, China is seen as the big,
As the big bad
problem.
wolf.
Yeah. And they just raised the tariffs to China by around 104%.
Yes, sir.
And sa atin, 17%, we're sort of lucky. But then our neighbors, like Vietnam, for instance, is 46%. So mukhang kwan talaga, mukhang our region is being targeted. And I don't think we can underestimate itong plans ni Trump. No? My view is that fairly radical itong measures to be able to what they think is necessary to reinvigorate the American economy. No? Yung head ng team nila is Peter Navarro, who is basically very, very anti-East Asia, anti-China. And if I can just sum it up, he and Trump think that the United States consumers will have to swallow some bitter medicine so that they can get the American economy into a healthy state again. And they're willing to risk a global recession to be able to bring that about. Mukha naman yatang may mga consensus na yung mga economists na tuloy-tuloy ang pagbagsak ng stock markets and that this is going to lead to some global recession. But the way to look at this is Trump and Navarro and people around them think it's a necessary measure to be able to get the U.S. economy back on track. Kasi from their point of view, nawalaan ng mga 3 million jobs ang U.S. which moved to East Asia and to China because the transnational corporations wanted to go after cheap labor.
Cut costs.
Now they want to reshore to the United States and they're bring it back to the United States. So yan ang strategic objective nito and they're willing to take risks. No? So we should not underestimate what's going to happen.
Prof, may mga nagsasabi, this is the start of the crisis of neoliberal globalization. No? Sabi nga nung isang Nobel Peace Prize awardee for economics, si Krugman, this is a malignant attempt to overturn the present global system. Tingin mo ba, Prof, ay talagang doon na ang papunta itong developments na ito na sinimulan o tinrigger ni Trump dito sa reciprocal tariff war niya?
Alam mo, matagal na talagang si Trump has been convinced that globalization is bad. No? Kasi tingin nila, globalization in terms of American corporations rushing out for cheap labor and bringing back commodities to the United States produced cheaply, for them, globalization was bad for the United States. And Trump has been very clear on that from the very start. No? So my sense is Krugman is right that this is the end to basically an 80-year period of an open trading economy for the United States. No? At si Trump kasi, ang focus talaga nila is to create a fortress America na economically healthy by focusing resources, by bringing back capital, by bringing back industrial facilities to the United States in a very defensive way, taasan ng tariffs, prevent immigrants from coming in. So we are now in a state whereby may malaking defensive kind of mentality that is governing the U.S. point. So that's, as I said, we should expect that there will be an almost complete overturn of the last decades of free trade policy by the United States.
Prof, ever since I've read your books when I was 4 years old, you have been a critic.
Yung 4 years old eh.
You have been a critic of neoliberal globalization.
40 years old.
Diba? At ngayon na nangyayari, nag-unravel yung kinikriticize nyo, parang on the horizon, walang theoretical at saka practical alternative na nag-unfold. Sinasabi ko, hindi lang theoretical, practical.
It's not
yung
clear.
pwedeng
Paano?
ipalit dito sa unraveling na ito. Anong tingin nyo dyan? Dahil kayo yung one of the foremost champions ng critique dito sa ganitong klase ng globalization.
Well, ang sinabi nga namin is that para sa third world countries for the global south, no? It was globalization disadvantaged us in the sense that it really advantaged yung mga transnational corporations, no? That basically, controlled more than 60% of global trade and created all these commodity chains throughout the world. No? So that even if countries were industrializing, poverty was not being reduced, inequality was increasing, and basically ito yung disadvantages of globalization that became very well known especially since 2008, no? Napakataas ang mga inequalities that were created. So and what happened was that from our point of view, for the global south, for third world countries, we became overly dependent on the markets of the United States and of Europe, no? So parang na-integrate tayo dito sa mga first world markets that were very hard to pull away from, no? And our own developments were sacrificed to this, no? So ang tingin ko ngayon is that with this effort by Trump to create itong Fortress America, may advantages and disadvantages for us at the same time, no? The disadvantages, of course, it's very sudden. We did not expect that it would be this fast, that this reversal will take place. On the other hand, it opens up naman our opportunities to be able to trade with one another, maybe with other countries within the region, and have a more healthy economic relationship with each other. No, hindi na tayo overly dependent on trade with the United States and other global North countries.
So you agree with Trump na bitter pill nga to, bitter medicine?
Yes. In fact, I've been studying yung mga economists niya, especially si Peter Navarro, who's the brains behind this, no? And they actually wanted to push this during the first Trump administration. Pero nahirapan sila kasi there were still many globalists doon sa previous administration that blocked these efforts, no? So ang nangyari ngayon is that parang ang tingin nila Trump at nila Navarro is that they're catching up. They lost time with the obstructions during the first Trump administration, and that's why they think that they really have to push very fast and very hard at this point in time. Ganyan talaga yung tama ka, Amy. And Trump has always repeated this, that there would be a lot of readjustment and suffering for American consumers before the American economy, from their point of view, can get back on track. I think the important thing to realize here, hindi pragmatists tulad sila Trump at Navarro. These people who are radicals.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hindi kaliwa yan, pero radicals sila sa kanan.
Extremists.
Ideological
Yeah.
nila.
But sir,
ideological talaga mga yan. So,
Radical populist.
But sir, the irony of what Trump is saying is that actually in the last 30 or 40 years, the United States surged ahead of its competitors in Europe, Japan, Britain, France, whether that's in terms of GDP per capita, wages. Pero I want to bring the discussion closer to here. Hindi pa klaro at this point how the government will respond to this. So far, we're hearing suggestions of potentially cutting tariffs by the Philippines to the U.S. For U.S. products to zero then, hoping that they will respond to that. What do you think of that, and what are some of the things that the government should be looking to at this point in time?
well, yung cutting down to zero, nag-respond na yung nag-respond na si Navarro, yung trade brains ni Pan to Vietnam, no? Sinabi niya na hindi sufficient yan, that if cutting it down to zero is not enough to satisfy the United States kasi raw marami mga ibang currency manipulation and all sorts of other hidden subsidies for the trading partners of the United States. And it's not just a question of yung cutting tariffs, but they have to change their policies around the currency, around many different things, and subsidies for their different industries. No, so my sense is this has created a lot of confusion across the board. In fact, across the whole world. No, and it seems like everybody nangangapa talaga ngayong mga tao kasi you would think that once Vietnam said okay, zero tariffs, that would pacify them. But the latest is that no, it's not pacifying the Trump people. Basically, what they're with respect, for instance, to Vietnam, ang gusto nilang gawin is that tanggalin niyo yung mga Chinese investments that are moving to Vietnam in order to export to the United States. No, that's basically what they're asking for. No, and with respect to us, marami rin tayong mga Japanese and other industries that move over here, also for export to the United States. No, not as much as Vietnam. But their idea is that their sense is that the Chinese, in order to evade yung mga tariff barriers ng US to China, move many of their industrial facilities to Southeast Asia. And so what they're saying is that, that's no longer possible. Kasi nag-evade lang, they're just moving it around. So you guys have to stop accepting Chinese investment that's manufacturing things for export to the United States. So it's very hard line that in terms of what they want to do. Plus, they want they're accusing us and the other Asian countries of manipulating our currencies, na we're really making it very cheap relative to the dollar. and they're not citing any evidence for that. But itong currency manipulation is something that they're very, very sensitive to, no? So again, the point is that there's a lot of questions about the data they're using with respect to, the trade surpluses and currency manipulation. But the important thing is that whether their data is correct or not, or insufficient, they're determined to upend things. So this is, I think we've all been surprised. It's just been less than 3 months, no?
Yeah.
Since Trump came to power, and both internationally, trade, and domestically sa US, they've moved fairly quickly and destabilized things fairly quickly. I just came from the United States. I was there for 3 weeks, and I tell you, people there are just bewildered at what is happening, no? And for instance, may mga permanent residents na ayaw na umalis sa US to visit their relatives because they're afraid that they might not be allowed to go back in. No? There's a great deal of uncertainty trade-wise and with respect to domestic policies. And I would just like to say again, we should not judge Trump as a pragmatist kasi very ideological yan. and I think this is what we should be expecting in the next few months is a lot of uncertainty.
Pero Prof, in spite of all these uncertainties, aren't we treading into very dangerous waters? Dahil even before itong disruption na ginawa ni Trump sa kanyang tariff war, ay meron na tayong global crisis of overproduction. Diba? Kaya nga nagkaroon ng ganitong klaseng condition dahil yung competition ng mga capitalist centers ay tumitindi. Especially in the US na nagiging deficit country. Diba? In the past few decades, deficit country na yung US eh. Yun yung objective condition dito sa ginagawa ni Trump. So yung ginagawa ni Trump didn't happen in a vacuum eh. Ang problema ay because of this, hindi naman pwedeng tumigil ang production ng China, ng Europe, ng US, ng Latin America. Kaya sinasabi kong delikado. Usually, yung ganitong disruptions in the past leads to war. Eh. Diba? Pupunta ito sa military confrontation. May ganun danger ba ngayon dito?
Sa tingin ko, there's that danger. I think if things get out of hand, especially with China, no? Kasi, you know what, Trump's biggest target is really China. But a target not as an enemy to be dealt with by war, but through trade war, no? So, but then trade wars like what they're launching now can have unexpected consequences, no? Alam naman natin that in the 20th century, what happened was that a trade war in the 1930s to the Great Depression, which then led to war.
World War II, yes.
So basically, the economic consequences of a trade war can run out of control and can in fact lead to conflict. So that's why things are very, very volatile at this point in time.
Well, we're hoping that doesn't come to fruition, but we'll leave that discussion there. Thank you so much for joining Storycon. Walden Bello, co-founder of Focus on the Global South.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Salamat,
thank you very
Professor.
much.
Thank you, sir. That's all the time we have for today. Bukas naman, we end on an uplifting note.
Yung
Hindi
topic
naman
kasi natin,
work.
hindi pang few minutes yun. Di ba?
Oo nga eh, kailangan 2-hour podcast to eh.
Gusto yun ng uplifting note. Ano ang uplifting note na? Tumataas naman ng tariff, di ba? Going up
Uplifting
yun.
yun. Diba, tataas din yung food prices.
Hindi, tsaka
Uplifting yun.
na-flip sa Reg doon sa response ng gobyerno. Di ba? Na-flip ka.
Oti na tayo.
Thank you for joining Storycon today. Amy Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, Ronald Llamas, our resident political political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina.
I'm at Lingao. We have one news, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.